Welcome to Anything But Ordinary with Spooky and Raven. Tonight's topic is a viewer's request, the Chupacabra and the Jersey Devil. I'm your host, Raven. We kind of changed it up a little bit. And here's your other awesome, most amazing host, Spooky.
Hello. That's supposed to be totally most awesome.
Oh, sorry.
Spooky.
Yeah, normally I don't do the intro. So how are you? How are you doing?
Well, I had a rough week, as you know, and for our listeners who don't know, I had a medical episode earlier this week, but I am improving. So at some points in the show, you may notice that I'll be probably talking a little strange,
Different or
different.
yeah, yeah. But I'm really glad that you're doing better and that you're able to come on tonight. So.
Well, thank you. I
Um,
wanted to.
oh,
I
sorry,
wanted
go ahead.
to. Tonight's show is
Wait, well, what you were going to say, tonight's show was a viewer's request.
right.
And we just want to thank you who requested for tonight's show and, who sent us the email. And we also want to thank everyone else who's contacted us. We have written down all of your requests, and we want to let you know that we do consider all requests that are sent to us. And we will do them on the show in, the future, along with other topics that we already have planned. So I just want to say thank you to the viewer who suggested this topic for tonight.
And we do read your messages and your emails, and it's like Raven said, we look into everyone that we possibly can, and we may not get them on the air soon, but we do get them on the air when we can.
Right.
And we want to thank everybody that has sent in suggestions.
Right. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and click this random picture here and just throw one up right before we start.
Oh, and by the way, we do appreciate all the nice messages and the show topics, and we think all of our listeners are awesome too.
Yes, everybody's awesome. We're all awesome. We're all a great little family, and hopefully those of you who do listen to our podcast at YouTube, maybe you'll be able to stumble in one night and listen to one of our live shows and chat with us and ask us questions while we're on the show. But unknown creatures like, the Chupacabra and its comparable beast, the Jersey Devil, they've been talked about for years.
Right.
Neither of them have been captured or killed. They've only been reported to have been seen by, a wide variety of people from all walks of life, really, if you think about it.
Well, that's true. That's true. I mean, all walks of life. But are these things real, or are they just a figment of an overactive imagination?
Mm-hmm.
Are people really seeing unknown animals, or are their mind's eye seeing something that is not real because of fear?
That's true. Because if it's nighttime or whatever and you're out and about doing your thing, you could easily mistake what you're actually looking at. And it could be some normal animal that you already know, like a dog or owl or whatever, depending on where you're at. And just because, the environment that you're in, you can kind of spook yourself and your mind can kind of trick yourself of what you actually are seeing.
Well, that is true. I don't believe that's always the case, because
There is stuff
I
out there.
I do believe there are things out there that we cannot explain. But Raven and I are not saying that these strange creatures do not exist, nor are we saying they do exist. We're just going to leave it up to our listeners to decide.
Right. That's normally what we always do. We try to research and kind of dig around the best that we can to find out and just kind of throw it all out there and kind of make it as neutral as we can and let everybody kind of make up their own mind on what this is or what it isn't and what have you. But
Exactly. Exactly.
sightings of this, it's basically an elusive creature, has gone back for like 65 years. And the El Chupacabra, meaning the goat sucker, sighting has been, reported in several locations in, the Americas as well as the U.S. I know that they had newspapers, from what I was kind of reading, dating back. I guess one of the earlier, supposedly, articles that came out was in 1950s. And one of the first reports back then supposedly came out in North America in Arizona sometime during 1956, according to these different websites that I was reading. I was trying to find the article to see if I could throw it up on here, but I didn't quite run across it yet. But many reports of, this Chupacabra creature have supposedly been documented in Arizona, Oregon, Michigan, Illinois, New Jersey, New Mexico, of course, Florida, and parts of Chile, Brazil, Mexico, and other countries, I guess, have started mentioning that they're having experiences like the Chupacabra in Russia, the Philippines, Indonesia. But from all the things that I was researching and trying to look up, the majority of these reports in the sightings, mainly from what I was seeing, occurred in and near Puerto Rico. And it didn't really kind of hit its notoriety until the 90s. And it was, I think, sometime in 94, 95, in various
Right.
regions of Puerto Rico, that there was this rash of attacks on farmers' livestock occurring. And it was in, I think, the town of, I may butcher this, I apologize beforehand, but it was Canovanas. And there were several hundred livestock fatalities that were attributed to, this El Chupacabra. And it was given that name, Chupacabra, from its first known attacks on goats, because there were several bodies found lifeless. Of course, if a body, it's lifeless, but so, hello, wake up. I had a long day at work. I had 10 hours, but the blood was completely drained, and all that was on the goat's body was puncture marks on their necks or on the chest, or maybe on the stomach or whatever. But there was only somewhere either in a soft region or whatever, there was only like 2 or 3 puncture marks, and that's how this creature got coined El Chupacabra.
Well, the first early reported attacks were on goats, but they were not limited to just goats.
Oh yeah, because supposedly this creature had been attacking like a wide variety of animals, like livestock. There's chickens, ducks, rabbits, sheep. It also attacked, domestic animals, like cats and dogs.
Right.
And then I guess in some reports it was saying that it occasionally took down a cow or a horse. So from what I was
That's
reading,
a strong animal to take down a cow or a horse.
I know. Well, as we go into this a little bit more depth, we're just kind of breezing through the first part of this. But, it said from what I was reading, there was over 2,000 attacks. There may have been more that occurred, from the sites that I was reading on the net. And there hasn't been any known human attacks or fatalities as of yet that I could see or find in the time that I was studying this. I'm not sure if there could have been.
Well,
I just didn't run across it. So.
neither did I. But I saw on a few different sites that before the Chupacabra reports came out, that there was actually a Puerto Rican monster known as the Mocha vampire that had been reported along with a rash of UFO sightings during the 70s.
Oh, yep. Mm-hmm.
That and several farmers discovered animals massacred after these strange lights appeared in the sky. And according to some investigators examining the animals, which included, like you mentioned earlier, birds, goats, and cows, that their carcasses were completely drained of blood with almost surgical precision.
Right.
Now, according to these sites, the Mocha vampire was apparently never sighted firsthand, but rumors of what it may have been circled many of the smaller towns in the area for years.
Yeah, in Puerto Rico, right?
Right, in
Uh-huh.
Puerto Rico. And some even thought uh, illegally imported crocodiles were to blame, although I never heard of any blood-sucking surgeon crocodile before. I mean, crocs are carnivorous and or carnivorous,
Yeah,
and they eat what they kill. They don't drink what they kill.
I know.
They just rip it apart and eat it.
I know. Well, yeah, they grab it, put it in a death roll, and
Yeah, go
stuff.
into
They
a
may
death
they
roll
may
and
stuff it and keep it underwater or ground for a while for it to
Well,
bloat and soften
mostly
up and stuff, but they don't. I've never known, like you said, a crocodile that comes with surgical skills coming and sucking an animal dry and then leaving the body. That's ridiculous.
not unless he carries his crocodile surgical bag, but
With crocodile skin, made out of
with
crocodile
crocodile
skin.
made out of crocodile
Okay.
skin.
Well, and
But
go ahead.
they don't normally go on. I mean, normally when a crocodile gets its prey, it's usually something that comes down to the water for a drink, and they jump out, they grab them, put them in a death row, drown them, and then rip them apart and eat them.
Well, sometimes they
So
store them down under the water until that the body
right,
softens up. So it's
right. That
easier. I mean, it's just anybody who's
well,
gone to
that's true
school
too.
knows that.
So
Or
I just
not.
don't think
Just
that
watch
this
TV.
creature is a crocodile.
No way.
I just don't.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you that I just think that they were just throwing that out there just to get people to be quiet. But I mean, come on. I mean, farmers aren't going to buy that some crocodile is taking down half of his livestock in one evening. A crocodile doesn't
Right,
eat that much in one day. I mean,
right.
I guess this one just drinks blood, but whatever. In the spring of '95 in Aracavis and Moravis, there were two small towns in Puerto Rico. According to them, there were several animals were killed there with exactly the same MO that you were talking about, where the carcass of these goats and small, can't talk all of a sudden, small farm animals completely drained of their blood. But people have been reporting there was no trauma to these bodies except for those, again, neat puncture wounds. And sightings of the slain livestock continued to grow and spread across Puerto Rico throughout the fall into '95 into the town of San German, and the townspeople reportedly chased a strange creature away that was trying to kill their chickens, and they had already lost, over 10 goats in the same fashion. So these people saw an unknown
They saw something.
something, yeah, but they didn't know what it was, but they, tried to chase it down, but they couldn't catch it. I mean, it was said that up to 150 livestock and pets mysteriously killed by this unknown predator in and around the town of Canovanas in Puerto Rico. And on some websites, it was written that there were several witnesses in that town who had apparently seen this thing in broad daylight. And one of the reports comes from this lady. I guess her name was like Madeline Tolatino or something. I think that was her last name. And a
Yeah.
few of her neighbors in the Campo Rico community, they claimed that they observed this creature walking down the street around 3 p.m. And that's in the afternoon. So obviously there's a lot of daylight for them to
Yeah.
see this, the features and whatnot of it. And they said as they approached it, the creature ran away at such a high rate of speed, it escaped. So they couldn't even catch up to it.
Well, and like you say, if it, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that's broad daylight. So they saw something. But supposedly, even the mayor, Jose Chemo Soto, gathered a small group of armed volunteers to hunt this creature weekly for almost a year. But they failed to ever catch it. They had no idea what it was. It was just so elusive. And I know I'm going to butcher these names. Ganakia, a 44-year-old man, and his name was Evaldo Rosado. He claimed to have been attacked from behind by a large gorilla, and after fighting off the creature, he received medical attention for his cuts and abrasions that were around his mid-torso and his upper body.
Because you said gorilla, right?
Right, I said gorilla.
From
The
my
guy said that he was attacked from behind by a gorilla.
Right. Well, I'm not sure, but from my understanding, in Puerto Rico, I don't believe that they have wild gorillas.
I don't believe they have monkeys at all, or monkeys or apes at all in Puerto Rico.
I mean, if they do, it's more like zoo animals or somebody brought something in or whatever. But if this thing was like a large gorilla, what it kind of makes me think of is Bigfoot because, and I know we're just going to say this briefly right now because it's a thought that popped in my head, but a lot of times people have seen Bigfoot and Chupacabra sightings in the same area.
Well,
in the same time.
every continent and almost every country in the world has some sort of legend about Bigfoot. So why not down there?
Oh yeah, I just thought it was kind of interesting that
Yeah,
when all these people are reporting this unknown predator slaying their livestock, and obviously their livestock is their livelihood, so of course they're going to not let this die, because that's
really.
basically how a lot of people,
Well,
especially farmers, survive and stuff. But I just think it's kind of interesting that in um, uh, I forgot the name of the town, right? Canavassis, I think that was the name I said earlier, um, seems to have the most, it's like the epicenter of all of the activity thus far from what you were saying and what I've read so far.
well, when I read that report, though, the first thing I thought of was Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said earlier, there have been well over 2,000 animal deaths, ranging from livestock to domesticated pets. But it doesn't just occur in Puerto Rico. It had spread into several other areas. But before we go into the other sightings, I think we should give a description of this creature, because from the reported incidents that you and I read from Puerto Rico and the other locations, it appears to be that there are several different species or variations of this creature's description.
Mm-hmm.
And several of them do tend, though, to have some of the same basic characteristics.
Right, right. Well, yeah, I got another picture I'm going to throw up too, kind of when we kind of talk about this. But in most of the reports, the eyewitnesses, from what I was reading, describe this creature to be somewhere to, because it kind of varies a little bit here, but it's 4.5 to 6 feet tall. They've said it was thin, bipedal, with like an like an oval shaped type head, similar
Yeah,
to, those photos you've seen of like gray alien humanoids. It's kind of got
yes.
that similar shape, but it's got more of like an elongated jaw, they said. But it has this similar slit mouth, but it has protruding fangs and a serpent like tongue. And they said that it has like two small holes for the nostrils, and it has, alien like eyes. The almond shape like the gray humanoids have that people claim. But their eyes
But,
actually glow, this Chupacabra's eyes glow red.
well, some say that they were more like beady eyes.
I mean, like I can't think, like a dog, a little more round shape. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
See, a lot of them that I was reading, they were saying it's more of like the almond shaped. Because it's weird, because a lot of the way I was reading it almost made me think of the gray humanoids, except for this is like a different, a slightly different version of it, like I guess a knockoff, but that's not really what I was
Knock off.
saying, you know. But my, I can, I don't know. We're gonna say a lot of weird words tonight, I guess, during the show. It just me and Spooky have gone through a lot this week, so who knows? Might just be a lot of smart butt comments. But most descriptions claim that this creature has, long, feathery, or quills that run down its entire spine, and it has like the upper torso of it's more of like a smaller, thin frame, and they said that the bottom half has more of like the muscular hind legs. So I'm thinking that's where most of its power is
I
stemmed from,
found
is
it
from its legs.
I found it funny that some were saying that it uses those feathery quills to fly. I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, I don't know how you could fly with
I've
quills, but
never
maybe
heard
that's
of
the
her.
best. But maybe that's the best way that they could describe it. But maybe while it's
Maybe
just
that's maybe that's what they thought, because this thing got away so fast, was getting away so fast. But
right.
I have never ever saw a report of anyone claiming the chupacabra flew.
I did actually read some reports where they said that this thing flew in and flew out, and that it's hovered and stuff like that. I mean, we're just going off of what is out there, what people are saying. We're not saying this is fact. We're just giving the best that we can of everything that we found for you guys to form your own opinion. If not, go on your own hunt and go look for one. And if you do, take pictures. But it also was said it has like, two small arms. It has like a 3-fingered clawed shaped hands, and the toes are kind of like the same way. And they say that the skin is either similar to a reptilian, like I think Simon was kind of saying something, but it's kind of like a froggish, greenish gray in color. And then it's got like that, the little spots like frogs do, the little
Yeah.
molted specks or whatever. There's others who claim that it's got like a reptilian skin look, but it's got like a light fur skin, and it's like
Yeah.
blackish in color. And people have been saying this in the reports and stuff, that this creature has the ability to sometimes actually cloak itself, sort of like a chameleon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I guess it's one of its abilities, or
To
what.
kind of blend in with its surroundings.
Right, it just changes the colors at will just to help conceal itself, I guess. And
Yeah.
then, according, if you're reading how these attacks are, you're reading these reports, you're reading what people are saying. I mean, this thing is obviously showing it has some intelligent, thought out behaviors behind it. Basic, your rudimentary skills. I mean, it's got good hunting habits. It's not just randomly attacking without thought, because it seems like, from what I was reading, this thing actually is stalking its prey, and it kills quickly because it actually has the ability to it seems to just blend in with the environment. It's like it kills it, and then it's, because, like, okay, some people are saying, I was just out there, I was looking at my animals, and then not even 5 minutes later, it's gone, it's dead.
Right.
So it's quick when it attacks. It's obviously watching and picking certain things to know what it can get away with, or when's the right moment, obviously. And it kind of would make sense if this thing does have, like a chameleon, the ability to blend in with the background, that or whatever. I mean, that would make sense why it can slip away without being detected or captured during the act. But it's always been seen prior to or after, but it's not so much ever been seen during these said attacks, if you've noticed in a lot of the reports.
Right. And well, the creature is also, it's often spotted alone. But if you think about it, with the number of reports of mass deaths in one night, you could say that they hunt in a small group or a pack, and that's why one would find several livestock dead on just one property. But that's just a random thought. Uh,
But wait a minute. So you're saying that they may be just noticing one, but there may be several of them, like
well,
kind of like a wolf pack. You know what I mean?
right,
One
because
kind of goes out. You usually only
this
see
is
of one, and then you never really see the whole pack until it's on you. So that
right,
makes
and
sense. That's a good thought, actually, because
well, it's just my understanding is this chupacabra is like a canine, some sort of canine, and coyotes, wolves especially hunt in packs. And while people are seeing one, the rest of them are sneaking up and carrying off the livestock, because that's basically the way wolves hunt.
right. So maybe
So,
this
and on
unknown creature, whatever it is, or it may be a known creature and people just don't know it. I don't know. We're just throwing what's out there. But that makes sense. They may only see one of it, but there might be several of them. And that's why there's that many livestock dead just on one property. That's actually a good thought.
well, that's just it just makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But some have even stated, not us, but I'm talking about websites now, that this unknown creature has telepathic and shape shifting abilities that help them to elude their captors. And some witnesses have even claimed that the red glowing eyes appear to emit a beam that puts their victims in, or their prey, in a trance like state before attacking them. I find that kind of far fetched, but
Hey,
that's
we're
what it
just
said. That's what it said on the website.
we're just trying to give our best information out there
Yeah,
for
well, my
people.
thought of
So,
them hunting in packs to me made more sense
well, that does. I mean, that
and
was,
was more believable.
yeah. I don't know, unless it's extraterrestrial, or maybe it's interdimensional or multidimensional. I mean, these are things we're going to kind of talk about as we keep going into talking about this, or military or everything. So we're kind of going to give our best of all the way around theories, and it's up to you guys to decide. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe it has shape shifting abilities. Because some say Bigfoot has that, and some also say that Bigfoot had telepathic abilities as well. So maybe this cryptid creature might as well. I don't know. I think it's kind of weird that it can shoot beams out of its eyes and
Well, I think it's really strange how a wolf pack can hunt in a pack,
bite. That's not so much
and
strange, but
each one knows exactly what it's going to do. They have to be communicating somehow.
oh well, yeah. Everything communicates. Just because we don't understand
I
them
just think it's more than
doesn't
just
mean that
instinct.
right. Just because we don't understand some other thing doesn't mean that they don't understand us. I mean, look at pets. I mean, I know people are going to be like, "Oh no, pets are just stupid, mindless animals,"
No, they're
but they're
not.
not. I mean, all animals have emotions and blah blah blah. We're getting off topic. Anyway, but you know what I mean. So yeah, these things obviously would, if they are working in a pack, are communicating with each other just like birds communicate with each other, dogs communicate with each other. I mean, everything knows. It's like a, I don't know. There's some, like I said, intelligence to these things. Whatever this thing is that's hunting and killing these people's livestock. But I mean, many eyewitnesses report a strong, unpleasant sulfur type odor coming from these creatures. Although some of them I was reading did say they didn't have a smell either, but maybe those people don't have a good smell, or they weren't close up. They may have not been close up, but everything gives off a smell. Period. Humans give off. Every single
Some
person
just
gives
give
off
off
their
a
own.
stronger odor than others.
Right.
But this, and I don't want to get off topic, but this unpleasant sulfur odor
Right.
that they're talking about
Right.
is also associated with a Bigfoot.
Well, it's not really off topic, but all animals have a smell to it. Humans have a smell. Even if you take a
Right.
shower and everything else, I mean, everything creates their own scent. We have our own
Right.
scent. It is what
Exactly.
it is. And some being worse than others, mainly because of what you're dining on. You can tell with certain predators to I don't know what the word is. The ones who eat vegetables compared to the ones who eat meat. Like I said, I work 10 hours, so my brain's kind of off right now. But, I mean, depending on what you're eating, you're also going to have a difference. Not because of gas, but I know you're probably thinking that, but you know what I mean. But
I did actually. I was thinking that's probably where the bad odor come from.
you're probably like, where's she going with this? But no, the creature, they also said, is generally seen upright running bipedally. And there has been times where people have said they've seen it running on all fours, but it had like this ability to leap over trees, with kind of like, how like kangaroo
Yeah.
qualities. And they also said that the chupacabra uses its strong hind legs to jump rather than walk. So there's like so many different variations of, so maybe some people only seen it jumping where other people have seen it walking bipedally. Maybe some only seen it running on before, its arms and legs, whatever. And others have mentioned even to see it walk more of like an ape-like walk. So
Right.
it just kind of varies in a lot of the things, but maybe it's depending on what moment they're catching the animal in, or what actor right after or right before. But there's another description that everybody's kind of, I think, more familiar with, is that the chupacabra is of an unknown breed of wild dog, and it's mostly
Right.
hairless and has like that pronounced spinal ridge, and of course the eye socket's protruding because there's no hair covering
Right.
its face, and its fangs and claws. But I don't know. I mean, unlike other well-known predators in that area, in Puerto Rico and other states that claiming they're having these attacks happen, the chupacabra is said to only mainly drain all of the animal's blood through, like I said, this 2 to 3 holes in the shape of an upside-down triangle. And the weird thing that I was seeing, and it's true because there's all these reports of these dead livestock and domestic animals, that there is no blood in the body at all. It's not messy anywhere. There's no trauma to it. And in some cases, there's actually a missing organ or appendage as well. But there's no rhyme or reason of how that could have been removed. And it's not torn or teared. It's like it's, I don't even know. It's hard.
Like it
It's
popped off.
popped out through the little hole, I guess.
Yeah. Well, to sum it all up, sightings of these strange-looking creatures described as either dog-like, reptile-like, or rodent-like with an elongated jaw, large fangs, leathery or reptilian greenish gray skin with spikes on its back, with a nasty odor, red eyes, with great jumping and running speeds, and the, the ability to fly. I just find that a little ridiculous. I'm sorry. But the one common factor though in all these reports is that all of them seem to kill in the same manner, draining its victims of all of its blood, leaving no mark other than a surgical like puncture wound
Mhm.
on the body.
Mhm.
I mean, it's unlike other known predators that tear the corpse apart, leaving large wounds with blood present and physical DNA or even prints left at the scene.
Right, because this thing isn't leaving anything, whereas any natural predator or human, we're always leaving DNA or marks behind. And thank you, Simon, for your question. And
We are going to get to that.
yeah, we're actually going to answer that pretty soon. We just kind of we're going to go down this thing. But yeah, just keep throwing the questions out. We're going to type them in here and we're going to save them and then we're going to answer them here in a little bit. But yeah, we did cover part of that in our notes and we're going to kind of throw it out there for you guys too. But what did you say? Oh yeah, because there's no blood present in physical DNA and stuff. Yeah, that's another thing I found.
There's
very
not
weird.
even prints left at the scene.
Right. See, there's so many things that are kind of baffling to this
Yeah.
because there's officials and everybody were saying, well, it's this predator or it's this or it's human or it's a satanic occult. What the heck are the humans doing with all that blood? And I'm sorry, humans are like the most destructive, messy things on this planet. And they're
Right.
going to leave absolutely no trace and have that much skill surgically. That's one heck of a satanic occult that they have that much skill
Exactly.
in means and to be able to pull this off. And some people say that the animal would, die
I
in
honestly
10
don't
minutes.
think a human could pull that off.
Oh, no way. I mean, because this creature,
I really don't.
the thing is basically this thing, this creature has its distinct technique in killing its prey. So it's pretty easy to assume if a chupacabra was involved in the animal's demise versus any other predator. Because the fact it only
Right.
leaves, like I said, the small puncture wounds on the body. And I don't know, sometimes a missing organ I mean, how do you explain it? That's a strange thing. Obviously, it's showing when the examiners are going through it, they're seeing that it's basically been surgically removed, and sometimes the wounds were cauterized. There's no
Yeah.
known predator or animal that, when it bites into you, can cauterize your wound perfectly like it was, with a surgical laser. It's strange. And they also said a few of these animals also had laser-like cuts on their ears.
Well, many websites have stated that some eyewitness believe that the chupacabra lives underground in caves or tunnels within the island of Puerto Rico. Now, although some say the first reports came in the early 1950s, the majority of these killings and sightings really started to flood in the early 1990s. And during that same time, there was a rash of unexplained lights and UFOs being seen in the area as well.
Right, I did see
There,
that in a lot of the reports.
yeah, well, there was a report in July of 2004.
Mm-hmm.
A rancher near San Antonio, Texas, killed a hairless dog-like creature that was attacking his livestock.
Mm-hmm.
And this animal initially was given the name, see if I can remember it, Elmendorf beast, but was later determined by DNA tests conducted at the University of California to be a coyote with demodetic or sarcopic mange. Now, the difference between demodetic and sarcopic mange, demodetic is not curable, but sarcopic mange is. And
So, like this photo I have here, would you say that dog has which one?
I would say that dog has mange.
Well, I know that,
really
but
would.
which version do you think?
I have no idea. I'm not a veterinarian.
Well, no, but you're been in the medical profession type of thing, so I just thought maybe because you were studying this and researching that maybe you knew the difference to throw out for people.
I had a small dog that got mange one time, okay?
Mm-hmm.
and it was getting sores and crusty skin on it and stuff like that, and like that animal in that picture, and that dog had sarcoptic mange. And the dog was given a couple shots, and I was giving this stuff to bathe the dog in, and the mange went away. It's actually a parasite that causes it. Um, and
It
but
attacks
and
the
it
skin.
yeah, it was sarcoptic mange, and
So
it
that's
was
the okay.
curable.
So the sarcoptic mange is the curable one, and
Right,
the other one isn't. So
right.
this, but it causes scabs and stuff. The sarcoptic one causes scabs, or they
Well, they
both
both
do.
do. They both do, and the only way that they can really tell which kind it is to take a skin scraping
Right, to see the what
and to look at
parasite
the
and whatnot.
parasite
Right, and
that's there.
from what the studies that they have already.
Exactly.
Right.
That's really the only way that they can tell.
Well, I figured I'd
Uh,
ask and throw it out there because someone might think of it while they're listening. So.
well, that's true. They might. But in the fall of 2004, there were two more carcasses found in the same area. So this biologist in Texas examined samples from the two carcasses and determined that they were coyotes suffering from very severe cases of mange.
Yeah, but see, because what you were saying is this guy caught this hairless dog attacking his livestock, but he didn't say from what you're saying that he drained it of blood. He just caught it in the act of trying to, the thing was probably starving from what
Well,
it's
it probably
a
was.
sick coyote, Um,
Yeah.
I was kind
And
of
when a coyote gets hungry enough, it'll attack anything, even if it's something way bigger than it. Because I mean, if even humans, when they get really really hungry and have gone for a while without food, then they start getting desperate and they'll look just about anywhere for something to eat.
well, I'm not going to eat people, but
Well, I'm not going to eat people either, but
no, but now I
I mean,
understand.
but if it ever comes down to it between me and my dog,
I
it was a
guess if
good
it's the end
dog
of the
while it
world or
lasted.
something, yeah. Right. Well, I was kind of reading around and kind of bouncing around and stuff, and I kind of saw this one report supposedly. Okay, we're not saying if these are factual or not. We're just throwing out there what's out there. But in April of 2006, in the Moscow News, sightings of a chupacabra were reported in Russia for the first time. Now they were saying there were several reports coming from different villages of an unknown creature killing and draining the livestock as well as domesticated animals, and the eyewitnesses were actually able to describe the creature to have, similarities to what the America's chupacabra was, and I guess it was going on for such a while that people, they kind of experts started to decide that they needed to track down this animal, and I guess it was said like in regions of the Ukraine and as well as parts of Poland were frequently stalked by this creature as well. So this thing isn't just limited to over here because
No.
it's now there's people over in Russia in 2006 and I suppose on having reports of having the same some unknown predator doing the same MO of what was going on here. I mean, there are reports.
Well, Russia has wolves. It could have been a wolf with mange.
Yes, but a wolf isn't draining a body drain of blood with two
Well, that's
puncture
true.
wounds. And I don't think werewolves suck blood if it's a werewolf,
No, they
unless
rip.
it's
Yeah,
a new
they go for the
hybrid,
throat.
yeah, or the soft underbelly. But
Yeah.
I mean, the reports of the chupacabra like attacks in Moscow regions of Russia with a dozen birds. They had and other animals found bloodless with the same, strange incision, that perfect incision with the cauterized mark. And they said, I'm not saying we said this, we don't know if it's factual or not, we're just throwing what we can find. They said at least there was twice this mysterious creature attacked humans, but it didn't really cause any serious damage.
That was probably the first report of one really attacking a person.
Right, because they didn't say it was a gorilla type thing like you were saying.
No, they
So they
didn't.
weren't attacked like a Bigfoot or anything, but they were saying it was similar to either the dog type of chupacabra or this lizard one that they were seeing that was attacking and killing their livestock exactly the same way here. So.
Yeah. Well, in August of 2007, this Phyllis Canyon found three animals in Cuervo, Texas, that she and her neighbors reported to have discovered three strange animal carcasses outside her property. So she took photographs of these carcasses, and she even preserved the head of one of them in her freezer before she turned it over for DNA analysis.
Oh yeah, that's
Now,
like this dog here. That's right.
yeah,
I know what you're talking about. I remember that one now.
yeah, I remember hearing about this one on some program, but Canyon reported that nearly 30 chickens on her farm had been exsanguinated. I didn't think I'd get that out. And for people who don't know what that word means, it means drained of blood. And
So it's drained of
but
blood over a period of
yeah,
years.
yeah,
So for years, something was targeting her farm. Sorry about coughing, guys.
draining the
And
blood from
draining
her
the blood from her livestock for
her
years.
livestock, and this is what led her to connect the carcasses with the Chupacabra legend.
Mm-hmm.
A state mammologist, John Young, estimated that the animal in Canyon's pictures was just a gray fox suffering from an extreme case of mange. And in November of 2007, biology researchers at the Texas State University in San Marcos determined from the DNA samples that this suspicious animal was a coyote. The coyote, however, had grayish blue, mostly hairless skin and large fanged teeth, which are attributes which caused it to, appear different from a normal coyote. And additional skin samples were taken, in an attempt to determine what caused the hair loss. But there was really no report listed anywhere about the results of that.
Right, and if you kind of look in the one photo that we got off of the internet of a dog with mange, you can see its claws sticking out more. I'm sure if the dog was face up, you would see its fangs protruding in its eyes as well. So, I mean, to me, a lot of these one reports where they actually have a physical body, I think it's like what you said, a coyote or a dog or whatever that had severe cases of mange, and that's why. But it still doesn't make sense of what's killing the livestock because coyote and dogs are incapable of doing such things. Now, I just want to kind of say this real quick because Simon said something, and we're going to kind of go into more detail of that in a little bit, but just to say it out there. But he was mentioning that, while we were both talking, he's like, well, maybe this creature, excretes acid from its claws when it's attacking, kind of like a scorpion he had mentioned. He said that this creature has traits from nearly every predator in Earth, and he said, really does it sound like it's kind of what he's saying is like...
He made a pretty good point.
Yeah, he's saying it kind of sounds like an experiment, but, like a creature that was kind of created or designed, but not by humans. I believe that's what he was mentioning. But yeah, we're going to kind of go into a little bit more detail on that too, because we kind of wrote up some things with that theory as well. But I agree, because me and her were thinking about these things as well and tossing out there these different thoughts and theories as well. And like we said, we're going to kind of try to present as much as we can, but it's really hard to say without us seeing this thing or us being in an area where we can actually try to film it, capture it, and do all that stuff. So we're trying our best.
That's right, because the only information that we have is during our research, what we found during that.
But I actually was thinking similar thoughts as well as that Simon was, and I'm agreeing with some of the things that he's thrown there, and I think that's actually a really good theory, and I'm sure a lot of people there are people running with that same type of theory and adding more to it, that's alien, extraterrestrial, and stuff like that, and we're going to get to that in a little bit here too. But another report that I kind of read, you were done with your part, right? I don't mean to cut you off. I was finished. I didn't want to lose Simon's comment there, because in case chat keeps going, I didn't want to quite miss it, so I apologize for cutting you off. But I also saw another report, supposedly, happened in January in 2008. They had a sighting reported at the province of Capiz in the Philippines. Okay, so that's totally in another area. And they're saying some of the residents from the I can't remember quite the place. I just know it's in the Philippines.
Barangay.
I think that was it. Did you read the same one?
Yes, I did.
Okay, yeah, I think that was it. It was in anyway in the Philippines or whatever. But they believed that it was a chupacabra that killed 8 of their chickens, and the owner of the chickens saw like the dog-like animal attacking his chickens. So again, this is a version of a chupacabra that seems similar to a wild dog, but a wild dog doesn't suck blood and whatnot. So it's just
right. But there have been these. It's actually an example that these reports are not just confined to the United States.
Or the Mexico and Puerto Rico and
right.
and Arizona and the lower Texas area. I mean,
right.
it's actually and it's only kind of really exploded more so because of the internet and because of the 90s, but this is actually some of the things that we were digging back. It goes way back to the 50s of kind of what we were seeing. And
right.
I was actually reading other stuff too, and it goes back even further because there was Mayans speaking of a creature that did this similar type of killing, and there
right.
was also some Native Americans way back before the New World that had spoke of creatures and beings doing this, but it's more of a spiritual thing, and we'll kind of go into that pretty soon too. So I mean, it's not just recently in the 90s and up, and it wasn't just the 50s. I mean, these kind of go way back. It was just because of the internet that people are really getting out these either
they're finding these reports and things. I mean, those were just some of the reports that we found like on Wikipedia and other sites. Right. We don't just go to just Wikipedia.
Well, no.
But
it helps. Wikipedia helps you, because you can find photos that you can use from there.
Exactly.
But that's about it.
But there are exactly. But there are several more reports out there that you can find, that range over several years.
Right, like I was just saying,
or dozens of years actually.
Right. We still have a ways to go with the Chupacabra, and then of course we have the Jersey Devil too. But do you want to just take a quick break now, and then recontinue on with finishing up with the Chupacabra, and then go into the Jersey Devil, whatever. But
okay,
we're gonna I know we're kind of taking a little early, but we're gonna take like a quick 3-minute intermission. So for those of you who are listening over at Ustream, if you guys want to come over to our website, you can join in with the discussion that our chatters are having, and or throw out questions for us, and we can try to answer them. But if you guys want to go get a drink, stretch, get a quick snack, we'll be back in 3 minutes, and we're going to continue on with the different theories and ideas of what this possible creature can be. And if you guys want, you can go ahead and share us on social media and bring more of your friends in. So we'll be right back. And thank you for listening. welcome back to Anything But Ordinary. I'm your host, Raven, and here's your other awesome, totally great, spooky. I'm glad to have you back because I know you had
Thank you.
medical stuff, and I'm just happy that we can do a show tonight.
Oh, I am too.
But
I am too.
I'm just going to annoy you for a second. I just want to say happy birthday, and I don't care if you get mad. I know you don't celebrate birthdays, but I'm happy that you're
Well,
around,
thank
and
you.
I'm glad that we're friends, and I've enjoyed knowing you for a long time. So I just want to say happy birthday, and I hope that you have a good one this week, and
Well, thank you very much.
nothing but
I appreciate it.
positive energy your way. So anyway, back to the Chupacabra. You know, you were kind of mentioning, like you said, that it's been seen for years, not just the 90s, but well back and talked about in
Well, there are
folklore
still
and stuff.
right, and still in the 2000, 2000s. There are still sightings of this thing. And I personally believe there's probably something to it. Just what it is, I don't know because I have never personally ran into one.
Do you
And
want
don't
to?
want to.
Yeah. Well,
And don't want to.
obviously you don't want to because you have, like you've said, livestock and whatnot. That's definitely not something you want to see. But if you do, just bring a gun and, well, see, everybody wants to
Have
shoot
at it.
everything. Yeah, everybody's shooting something. You ever notice that? You see something strange, they shoot at it, What if you were in a
Right.
costume and you got shot at? So, yeah, don't shoot everything. So, if you see something strange, take a picture. You have cell phones and cell phones that have amazing cameras nowadays. Some of them do. They're better than the camera you bought, So,
Yeah,
I don't.
some of them are.
I mean, I'm not saying that maybe a lot of people in poorer areas or, farmers, when you're farming, you're not carrying your camera and your equipment on you. You're busy working. So I can understand why farmers aren't really getting
Well, farmers
video
don't.
and photos. You're busy. You don't. I mean, farming is a lot harder work than a desk job or any job really in the city. I mean, for those of
Farmers
you
don't normally carry
24/7.
cameras on them, though, unless their cell phones happen to have one.
Right, but even then, you might be in the middle of doing something. You don't have the means to pull out your phone to take a picture. So,
That's true.
um, I think I'm gonna kind of go into different theories. Since Simon kind of sparked this up, and I think it's a good thing to kind of go into. But
Okay.
Some speculate or theorize that the Chupacabra is a spiritual demon. I mean, centuries ago, and I may say this wrong, the Taino Indians were a group of natives that lived in the northeastern parts of South America, and that was before Columbus arrived to the New World, basically. And they had, well, the natives, we all know they have a very strong belief in their spiritual beings. I mean, you have many friends, like the shaman and stuff, so you know what I'm trying
Right.
to talk about. But the Taino Indians, century ago, they actually had this really strong beliefs in the spiritual realm, and they believed that it affected their daily lives with everything all the way around. So they were very connected to it. We're all connected, all right?
Right.
So, and I may say the name of this wrong, and I apologize. I don't mean to offend anybody. It's just I've worked 10 hours, so my brain's kind of like, blah, But one is being the Ma'aboa. I think that was the name of it. It's basically an evil bush spirit, and which was said by some sites to be a shape-shifting nocturnal deity who destroys crops. It was feared by all the natives to the extent that they would offer sacrifices to appease it. The Taino natives. Now, I'm not saying all the different, you know what I mean? I'm just talking about this one section. And this is what
Right.
I was reading about. And it was actually really interesting. So I can only do a little bit on it because we only have so much time. But, I mean, I totally suggest people to go and explore that avenue because I found it just everything about it was fascinating. But the folklore said that the Ma'aboa were actually the souls of people who had committed evil acts during their lifetime, and upon dying were doomed to roam the Borquin's forest and beaches for eternity. And from what I understanding, I may be wrong, but the Borquin is the Taino name for Puerto Rico, and it means the land of the mighty Lord. Now, these spiritual creatures were said to hide in the dark places during the day and would come out after sunset to destroy livestock and harass the people. Now, the Taino natives believed that the Mayaboa was actually the personification of all evil. So, centuries ago, there was this, but they believed it was a spiritual demon, not a physical flesh and blood creature, or whatever.
Well, there are people still to this day who believe that this creature is not of physical flesh and blood, but a demonic being that is stalking and killing and causing fear in many.
Right. And I just trying to think of a thought here because I kind of got a lot going through my head, but just from what we were just saying and stuff, and this is going back centuries of this being. It's a spiritual being that was actually doing similar act as far as destroying livestock in the same MO of this now Chupacabra of what we have now, and I know that I've read too before that they think it's also a spiritual being that can, I guess, I don't know.
Yeah, but do spiritual beings actually kill and drink blood like the Chupacabra? And if they do, why? What's the purpose?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why would they only kill livestock and not attack humans and feast on their spiritual souls?
You know what? That's actually a really good thought, because if it is a spiritual being or demonic or evil in nature, like they were stating, and like some people are still believing to this day, I mean, why would it only attack animals and domestic animals? Why would it just drink their blood? Why not go after humans? Because humans are supposedly, I'm not saying this is what we're saying, this is what's just stated by some in some people's belief systems, that humans are a higher spiritual being. And if it's a being, wouldn't it go after your soul and essence and energy, not more of a physical appetite as far as draining blood and stealing the liver? What's the purpose? Just to cause fear?
It just seems to me that it would be obvious that if it was a demonic deity, right, that instead of eating animals, that it would go after humans.
Right.
But
that's just a thought, right? We're not
right. That's just a thought. Right. I really I really couldn't tell you, but I know that the ancient Indians, they all have their beliefs, and I mean, you don't know what's running on the earth. No. And how long it's been here.
Right.
So tales of this thing is going back basically centuries.
Right. No, well, yeah, and that's what I was kind of seeing. But of course, I mean, you have to do more digging, because everybody's going to spew out the same information, and only do half of the work, and they'll just recopy what somebody else says. And we do read people's stuff, and we'll say some of their stuff, but with our own thoughts with it and attached. But we do try to dig a little bit further as best as we can when it comes to a lot of different topics that we're talking about, and why we want to throw out all different theories. But I don't know. That was actually a good thought, But I agree. I mean, if it's going to be a spiritual nature, why not just go after the people? I did, and I did read that the Taino natives actually had made amulets, can't say that word right, for the women to help protect them, because I guess it supposedly went after the women too. So I guess in that case it kind of, but like I said, I could only get so far, and I totally suggest people to go ahead and research that part and study on it, because right, I said it was so much interesting history with all of that alone. But I mean, there's some...
I was actually amazed at how much information there is on the Chupacabra out there.
Right, if you actually look.
Theories.
Yeah.
At least theories.
Right, and the people discussing it and what have you. And I know there's far more out there, but I mean, some say it's an unknown cryptid. Some also believe it to be an unknown animal. Like the bats. There's large vampire bat family. There's like what, 3 species of blood-sucking bats, I think, that inhabit Latin America.
Something like that.
I'm not sure, but I believe they do. So I mean, what the
And well, not only Latin America though. I mean, there are large. Um, you don't call. I call them flocks. I'm not sure what the correct word is, but there are large flocks of them in parts of New Mexico and Arizona.
right. I
So
don't think they're called flocks. Someone will correct us, maybe Richard or Penny
yeah,
or one of our chatters. But
a hive. I don't know what they're
well,
called.
bats aren't. I don't think it's called a hive. But I mean, the largest is, of course, the vampire bat. But if you think about it and how these animals perished and stuff, a vampire attacks its victim in a completely different way. It doesn't
Right.
kill them. The vampire bat, it kind of makes that like small oval-like incision, and
Right.
it actually licks or laps up the blood. It's not sucking it with its fangs. It makes a little incision, and then
A
it
bite.
bite, and then it laps up the blood. But there's like this type of, I forgot what it is that's in their saliva, that it helps close up the wound after. Well, either it leaves it open for a while, I think, so that they can
Right. It
continue
keeps the
to.
blood. It keeps the blood from clotting
Right.
while they're lapping up this blood,
But
but they don't.
that's like you scraping your knee or something. It's just a very
Right.
slight, tiny cut.
There's not blood gushing out of this animal.
Exactly. And there's no way that these bats, or known bats that we're aware of, can suck an animal dry completely of all its blood in a short,
It would
short
take
period
the
of time.
entire colony to do that, and then you would have more than just two fangs,
Or three
puncture
three little
wounds.
puncture wounds, because some say it's
Right.
like a
Colony
triangle.
is the word, not flock.
Okay. Thank you. But
Sorry.
um
Sorry about that.
yeah. But the thing
But
is, there's no way that one animal, especially a bat, can suck an animal dry. A cow, completely, there's no
really,
blood in it at all. And this can get it done in less than 10 minutes, because there's people who said they just checked on their livestock. They come back 10 minutes later and there this is.
yeah. Well, others believe that it could be an animal that evolved naturally over time and uh, lives in the extensive cavern system that's found throughout Puerto Rico. But that could explain why they give off such a foul smell and have reflective eyes.
Well, right, because your eyes, because squid, okay, they have
Hmm.
totally different eyes of how we have, and there's no way that their eyes would work above water. You know what I'm trying to say? It's just
Right.
completely different. Just go and research it, or go look it up and read about it. You know what I'm going to talk about, and you'll
Yeah, but
understand better. There's no way.
yeah, but why would a creature that lived in underground tunnels would evolve to have wings? I mean, it wouldn't make sense since there isn't much space or even a reason to fly underground in that sense.
No,
These
you're right. Because
creatures, the
there's really, I mean, bats don't just exist underground.
right,
They're just staying in caves, but they're still above and out of ground. But this thing, if what you're saying, dwells deep, deep, deep in these vast caverns and slowly evolved over time, there's no point for it to evolve to have wings if it is
yeah.
dwelling.
Well, some people have claimed that they saw it fly off, but these creatures, according to some sites, they travel with great speeds and have the ability to take down 1,000-pound cow in a short period of time. Now, it's going to take more than a bat to do that.
Do you know how
And
long it takes you just to, and we're not trying to offend or upset anybody, but I mean,
and I don't want any letters from PETA.
yes, but anybody knows who has a farm or working farm or hunts or whatever, it takes a long time to drain, and we're not trying to be rude or anything or gross people out, but it takes a long time to drain an animal of blood and to process it and everything else. But this thing can
Right.
take 1,000-pound cattle down in mere minutes with
And then
three
drain
little
its
punctures.
blood in like 10 minutes.
Yeah, supposedly in
I
some
mean,
cases, yeah.
it has to be a huge, strong animal. But I guess it's entirely possible that these things could dwell underground throughout the world and only surface from time to time to feed before hibernating. And that's why we don't see them
Daily, yeah.
daily.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. Like bears, they're only out for so long and then they hibernate. for a
Right.
period of time or whatever. Maybe these things only come up to the surface for so amount of time and then go back down because they only need to feed so much, and then they're good for months, days, years. I don't know. But
Yeah.
although we both kind of agree, I mean, a lot of animals that have been killed or spotted over the years by eyewitnesses have been animals with severe cases of mange. You know, we're
Yeah.
talking about the coyotes, the wolves and dogs and
Yeah.
stuff.
Like
The ones that
many were
people are
actually
shooting
raw
at.
dogs with sarcoptic mange.
Right. The ones that people are actually shooting and killing are, you know, they never got to initially do the act of what they're
Mange.
saying that's happening, but they
Right.
happened to notice it and kill it, but yet their animals were still getting killed and drained of blood. So they actually, it's just this happened, this animal happened to be crossing this person's path and they shot it because for whatever reason. I mean, just because you see something doesn't mean you have to kill it. You know, call the
Right.
DNR and call the proper authorities and have them trap it or do something else. Just because unless this thing is physically coming after you to attack you or your livelihood, then that makes sense. But don't just randomly kill something because it looks
Just to
strange
be
to you.
killing it.
Yeah, just because it looks strange to you. For sure. I mean,
I have nothing wrong with hunting for food.
oh no,
You
yeah.
know, and I am pro Second Amendment, but I mean, it's still, you know, if you see something strange or something that's different, that doesn't mean that you take out your gun and you kill it.
Right. Like we said, you know, if you happen to see something in the air and it's not harming you or taking out your livelihood of how you survive and stuff, then don't shoot it. Call the proper people to come in and you know, take a
Have a
picture.
look see, but
Yeah,
that by that
grab your
time though, the animal's
camera,
gone.
grab your camera out and film it and take photos. That will help identify it too because it may be someone's pet, you know, or it may be in a lab hoax where somebody's dressed up doing something and all of a sudden you're on trial for murder, you know, because somebody decided
Oh,
to pull
really?
a prank on you. But I mean, Simon said, what do you think about the cauterizing and the many traits that these creatures have? It bears question as do they inject a poison too? Maybe that's what kind of puts the animal into like a relaxed state where they're not
Or it could be
fighting.
something in the saliva as it's draining its blood.
Right, like he said, like a spider with a muscle relaxant, you know.
Yeah.
And it is a fascinating creature or topic of what's going on, and you guys can theorize all you want, throw out questions, and we'll try to catch them when we're reading them and everything else. I mean, me and Spooky don't consider ourselves experts. We consider ourselves equal, and we're totally open to
And
meeting.
I'm totally opinionated.
Well, yeah, we all are, but you're open to change too. You never know. I mean,
Right.
because we're always evolving, so we're totally open with communicating and conversating with people when it comes to this. But yeah, I mean,
Exactly.
yeah, I had those thoughts too, because there is a point where they were talking, and we're kind of bringing it up a little bit later here when through our notes and stuff. But they were talking about when these animals are killed and stuff. There's something that happens to them because the blood doesn't clot, and they don't go into rigor mortis like most bodies are
Right.
supposed to. But another theory, okay, which has been mentioned by many and with Simon and maybe a few other people in chat. I haven't been able to catch everything, but the military experiment gone wrong. You know, a government conspiracy.
Yeah.
I mean, some say that there are several, my mouth's getting stuck on words, I apologize. Several military research labs located not just here, but in Puerto Rico, I guess. And the Chupacabra, some say, is an escaped genetic experiment, and that these creatures may have been genetically created, or they were altering this creature into what it is known to be now to be used by the military, you know, for whatever reason unknown to us.
Well, it's also said by some that the U.S. military and
New Mexico?
uh,
New Mexico? Yeah. Well, yeah, I know what you're saying. Sorry, I cut you off.
that's all right.
The
I lost my
officials?
place.
The officials?
It's also said by some that U.S. military and New Mexican officials have actually captured Chupacabra and took several blood samples and analyzed it to be mixed with human and other unknown qualities. I don't really believe that. And had they been studying and observing its behavior in a closed and non-closed environment.
Okay, so you're saying that officials in
U.S. military and
right.
New Mexican
Well, in other
officials.
areas, I'm sure, but this is something that you were reading. They actually have these creatures in some sort of facility,
Right,
and they've been doing, testing and analyzing this thing, and
right.
on some sites, we're not saying this is true or not true. We're just throwing it out there that this thing has mixed,
This is a
similar.
conspiracy theory on the Chupacabra.
Right, someone's. Well, a lot of conspiracy theories happen to
Well,
come true.
actually, just about any theory is almost conspiracy.
Right, but as some of the ones we've known throughout the years actually ended up being true. I'm not saying this one is,
True.
but when you said that this thing was mixed with human and other known qualities and DNA, whatever cell structure, blah blah blah, it
Right.
made me think of that time back in Nazi Germany and stuff when Hitler and his scientists and their doctors were trying to create these super beasts, the super army
Out of apes.
out of humans and animals mixed
Yeah,
together, like
they
a
tried
wolf
to.
in person. So you create the werewolf
Right.
soldier or the
They
ape
their big
soldier, and
their big experiment was humans and apes
right. And they
to
were
create a
super
super
soldier,
army.
yeah, super
Yeah, super
soldier.
soldier.
But obviously, these things have been going on, and I'm sure it wasn't just over there. I'm sure it's happening in any country where they have
Oh,
scientists and
I have
doctors are
no
doing
doubt
stuff
that out
because
there that that the government, not only ours but other governments, are doing experiments like this.
right. Um,
I don't doubt that at all.
Right. I mean, some have even has gone as far as to say that because the military experiments with time travel and the study of space, that they themselves actually created a tear or an opening from, like our dimension, reality, allowing these lower and higher dimensional beings and creatures to actually come through. And there was this one guy, he even mentioned, do you remember the Philadelphia experiment? They
Right.
were messing with that, and they didn't know the extent of the effects of those such testings, and you know if they could even control such things. So maybe because they've been doing these experiments and maybe they already know how to time travel, they may have created some type of tear and opening that's allowing these things to come in that were never meant to come in.
Yeah, but these are just theories of people online that are discussing this cryptid. I
Right.
mean, there isn't any real physical or scientific evidence for any of this
Right.
that we are aware of. It's just theoretic at that.
Well, right. And that's what we're trying to do. It was a viewer's request, so we're trying to throw out everything that's been ever mentioned about this and try to figure out, well, obviously something's going on. We just don't know what it is. But, I mean, like I kind of mentioned when I was stating a little bit with the military and stuff in the different dimensions, there's people who think that this unknown elusive creature is a dimension walker.
Yeah.
Some have discussed that this creature is either an interdimensional or a multidimensional being, and that it has the ability to travel between dimensions, via these interdimensional doorways. I mean, people call them like sliders or time travelers or dimension walkers or whatever. But I mean,
Right.
there's some who believe that Bigfoot, as well as similar cryptids, may be interdimensional beings that can occasionally take physical form for like brief periods of time, but they either fade out or they go through these portals.
Well, that may be why cryptids like Bigfoot and Chupacabra can't be captured or their dwellings or their bones and such be found.
Right,
They're
because
only
there's all those Bigfoot hunters and stuff, and they can't find
all
squat
right.
of the
They
remains
don't
and
even find
stuff.
scat.
Right.
Um,
They
they're
find
only
poop.
well, that it's true.
I know.
They find nothing.
I know.
Um, but they're only temporarily in our plane of existence from time to time, and these creatures exist primarily in neighboring dimensions. And when certain points touch or cross,
Right.
it allows these creatures to physically appear in ours.
Right. I mean, that kind of
I
makes
mean,
sense for a theory. Yeah, if we're going along with this theory, at some point, maybe because of, the electrical magnetic fields and stuff, weaker points and stuff, and maybe at certain times because of weather or this or whatever, it kind of creates this quick opening or a quick glance, or maybe they know how to, because these beings have different vibration level or understand how to operate more on the spiritual and the energies and stuff, because we're kind of dumbed down. to it. I'm not saying everybody, but, these are theories. We're not saying everything's fact we're stating. But, maybe that allows them
Yeah,
to.
so we don't want hate mail.
Yeah. But it's okay to, you guys share your thoughts with us. We don't care.
Oh,
But
exactly.
but
We don't
but we're
care.
not saying the things that we're saying is factual and, believe what we say and drink the Kool-Aid. We're just throwing things out there for you guys to kind of open your mind and just kind of explore yourself, okay? But, maybe these beings have different vibration level that allows them to span over multiple dimensions simultaneously, and which allowing them to travel between dimensions at will. I mean, some believe in, the multidimensional theory because supposedly, according to these different sites on the net, that there have been several other strange creatures that have appeared on the island of Puerto Rico. I mean, not just the Chupacabra, but I guess, and you said something about a mocha vampire or something earlier too, but somebody had mentioned, or some people have mentioned or reported that, like the Mothman, there's this other creature kind of described like half human, half goat that was terrorizing parts of Puerto Rico for a brief period of time in and around, oh gosh, I forgot that one rainforest,
El Young Q.
Yonku or something. I think that's it. I apologize, guys, for ruining some of these words. But it was said that this half human, half goat, sort of like the Mothman, was terrorizing Puerto Rico, and then not long after, the Chupacabra seemed to follow in as well, and other creatures' appearances.
Well, there were some sites. I was reading that there were some sites that said Puerto Rico has high unstable electromagnetic fields.
Well, I think almost everybody kind of knows, for the most part, but there's a electronic magnetic field that blankets our planet,
Right.
and some of these magnetic fields actually are not, equal. There is actually some stress or weaker points found throughout the earth. I mean, people actually have recorded this with technology that, meters and all that kind of stuff. And everybody knows about the Bermuda Triangle.
Well, Puerto Rico sits on the edge of the Bermuda Triangle, and the triangle has been blamed for large numbers of ships and planes to disappear without a trace. And some out there believe that these triangles are portals to these other dimensions.
I'm sorry, I just saw something about. I thought Holly was saying her furniture is like a portal to another dimension, because things always disappear when you sit down on your couch. It would be
Or if you drop something under it. There is a portal under my couch because every time I drop something, it rolls under the couch, it disappears.
I think there's a portal in everybody's dryer. That's why everybody's socks, you only end up with like one sock, and all the other socks are going somewhere else because they're always constantly disappearing. But I'm sorry, Holly, I read your thing wrong. I thought you were talking about your furniture had its own portal or something, but I believe dryers do.
I believe you, Holly.
Yeah. She just wants stronger arms like monkeys so she can lift furniture up better. Or the strength of, excuse me. But do you recall that show we did on the Alaskan Triangle, the Vile
Yes, I do.
Vortices? They actually claimed that there are like 12 other major triangles across the whole globe. There may be more, but maybe that's why people are seeing these strange creatures in Puerto Rico and all other areas. I mean, many believe that the Chupacabra is a lower dimensional being, unlike Bigfoot, who is, seems to be a higher being who knows how to step in and out of like, vibration frequencies at will. I mean, because it seems like if this is true, we're not saying it is, we're just throwing out there what people are talking about, that Bigfoot can actually create dimensional doorways to our realities and many others. And, from what we were kind of reading on these reports and stuff, people have stated that when they see the Chupacabra, they've also seen the Bigfoot in the same area around the same time. So, maybe Bigfoot, when he comes in, he's allowing these other things in at the same time.
I watched this show on Saturday night called Mountain Monsters, and on this one show, that I saw, it was just a couple weeks back. These people were hunting a Chupacabra in Kentucky,
Mm-hmm.
and they ran into a Bigfoot. Now, some have theorized that the chupacabra is Bigfoot's pet. And the reason this creature is seen here is because Bigfoot brings them in with it and that they work together in their hunts. And on this show, farmers were finding livestock that was drained of blood. And it wouldn't be long until the carcass would disappear, and they couldn't figure out why until they discovered there was a Bigfoot in the area. So they believed that the chupacabra, that they both were benefiting because the chupacabra was drinking the blood and killing these animals, and the Bigfoot was eating the animals.
Taking off and eating. Yeah.
Yeah, was good. So they were working together. Now that's not the first time that I had ever heard that theory. I just happened to be watching this show,
And it kind of goes with what we're kind of saying.
Exactly. When we were talking about this the other day about the chupacabra and the Bigfoot being seen together, sometimes it reminded me that, well, just like 2, maybe 3 weeks ago, I just saw this show where they were hunting this animal and a Bigfoot was in the area.
Wasn't it called something else? Wasn't it called like the Hellhound or something?
No, that was another show. They were going after a chupacabra, and that's what they called it.
Oh.
And it was in, I believe it was in eastern Kentucky.
Oh.
These guys, they're hillbillies.
Well, it doesn't matter. They're just people.
Another way of putting it, but
Yeah.
I mean, they live in West Virginia and they go around in their areas and close states, and what they're doing, they're hunting animals and monsters in the Appalachian Mountains because more sightings of strange creatures have been seen, and all kinds of creatures, not just Bigfoot or the chupacabra, all kinds of strange creatures have been seen in the Appalachian Mountains and anywhere else.
Well, I don't know. It seems like there's a lot of bizarre, unknown things, or people are.
Well, there's more reportings of them out there
Oh,
because
yeah.
those people, I mean, those people, they get out, they hunt for their food and stuff,
Sorry.
and so they're in the woods a lot, so they run into these things.
I was laughing at Scooby's comment. She said, actually, I think the chupacabra would kill a Bigfoot. It's close enough to a cow. So, I don't know, but maybe the Bigfoot, we're just theorizing, we're throwing stuff out there. We're not saying we believe in these things. We're not saying we don't believe in them. And we're not against anybody not believing them or in believing them.
Right.
But I do think it was kind of funny what you said, Scooby, but maybe, like what you were saying, and because there's these, weaker stressor points in the electromagnetic field, it helps bring in these different lower and higher beings or whatever, but maybe Bigfoot is, like people have their hunting dogs, like their hound dogs. Maybe the chupacabra,
Well, that's
they're
what
trained
these guys...
to just kill this way, and then or they learn to work with each other.
Well,
Maybe they're not even, maybe it's not even a pet, but maybe they just learn to communicate and they said, you know what, you're quick at doing this, and, it'd be easier for you to slip in and out, and you get what you need to do, and then I'll take what I need, and we'll work together, and I'll protect you and look out for you, and you do this. That's kind of interesting theory.
Well, that's kind of what the conclusion that they came to on the show. But there's also the alien pet theory. Now, some think that these creatures may be extraterrestrial due to several reported sightings of UFO or strange lights occurring around the same time that these strange beings have been seen.
Right, the whole alien thing. Yeah.
Yeah, now we're into the whole alien thing.
Yeah, that a lot of people have discussed. And you know what? Before this elusive creature was being seen, there were tons of reports going way back before, they hit the newspapers and everything else, before the 50s and stuff, where there was tons of mutilated cattle and everything else, not just in Puerto Rico, but there were in other areas, like in Montana and other stuff, way back in the early 1930s and 40s, maybe even before that, I can't quite recall, But according to some sites, there was this interview taken from a woman in Puerto Rico, and she told of a neighbor who supposedly witnessed a UFO drop a large object in the rainforest. And not long after that, numerous sightings of this chupacabra began to occur in the area. Now, some think that this craft may have either released these creatures or maybe they were trying to capture these lower level beings that slipped through an opening, and this thing was more of like a containment device. That, or they could have been just doing experiments with them by releasing them and then later recapturing them. I don't know.
Now, this is what people are discussing on sites.
Right, not us, yeah.
Right. They are theories and do not reflect so much on Raven and my beliefs. We are just sharing what is being discussed when it comes to these creatures and mutilated livestock.
Right. I mean, this what we're doing tonight was a viewer's request, and we really do try our best to share the different theories and reports that were on the Chupacabra that we could find in the time period that we're doing, because me and Spooky have been going through a lot of stuff in life where we had to take breaks and stuff. But, we really tried our best to throw everything out there for you, So.
Right, and you mentioned about some people seeing a UFO dropping this large object.
Right.
And around the same time, there were several reports that were being made of UFOs and strange livestock mutilations occurring in New Mexico and other surrounding areas during the 1990s.
Right, and I kind of, and before that too, actually. So.
Yeah.
I mean, okay,
the 1990s was the decade where a lot of sightings of UFOs and chupacabras were taking place.
Right. This is one of the interesting things, because this is actually a good thing that you would call a total conspiracy theory type of. It fits in that thing of what I'm going to kind of mention here, okay? And this is talked about a lot, not just with the Chupacabra, but with many things when it has to do with extraterrestrial and government doings and New World Order and all that, blah, 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 blah. Okay? We're not going to go into a whole bunch of this because it's going to totally take us off topic, and these are other show topics, okay? But since we're kind of talking about UFOs, Mexico, and certain areas near there and everything else, specifically around and near one of there's this infamous alien base called the Dulce facility, okay? Now, I should say it's reportedly claimed to be an alien base, okay? We don't know. I don't know. You don't know. Somebody may know. I don't know. We're just throwing this out there. But
if anybody knows, it's not us.
Yeah. So don't come kill us. We're not telling out secrets. We're just throwing stuff out there. But anyway, I don't even know. But there were like numerous attacks similar to the reported Chupacabra ones near the Dulce facility. Now, the Dulce facility, supposedly it's a base, is stated to exist within and below a massive mesa at Dulce Ria, Arriba. I can't remember the county. Arriba, thank you. Sorry. New Mexico. Now, many people living in and around the Dulce area often report a plethora of weird and strange activity in the area. I mean, some said they were seeing strange lights in the sky, and especially around the mountains, the mountainous areas and the nearby lake. Some have claimed to see the mountain open up. I don't know how that works, and UFOs flying in and out of there as well. Now, there have been a large number of cattle mutilations in that particular area over the past, I don't even know how many years. This is what people are saying.
Right.
As well as a lot of missing people reported each year that have disappeared without a trace in that area as well. So you have like animal mutilation and domesticated mutilation with the same type of MO like the Chupacabra, with the puncture wounds, blood gone, and surgically cut perfect organs and stuff taken out. So
according to several sites on the net, Dulce is a government/alien biogenetics laboratory, and is not the only one. There are several that exist in Colorado, Nevada, Arizona, and other areas.
Right. I mean, I'm just going to give kind of like a short description, because this is, like I'm saying, a whole other show in itself. The Dulce facility, the New World Order, the reptilians, the humanoid greys and stuff. But according to online, the Dulce facility is, a dedicated to, the research of extraterrestrial beings and their technology. And it supposedly has it's like a multi-level facility, and there's like different extraterrestrial alien races that reside in some of the lower sublevels. Now, one of them being like most people know as the commonly known greys or the lesser popular reptilians. Now, many have stated on several sites and books and videos and what have you, it's all out there, that the chupacabra is either an experimental creature created in these facilities and is released and recaptured for testing, or that it's just like a lower level species of an ancient alien race, or like you said, like a pet.
Well, there are so many theories about the chupacabra. If it does exist, or is it an elaborated hoax? What
Right.
it looks like, you know,
Or where it
what
comes
does
from.
it look like? Where
I don't
does it
know.
come from?
Right. I mean, nobody really knows. I mean, we don't know if this chupacabra exists. The chupacabra was name given because it was first reported killing goats. It means goat sucker, okay? But
Right.
obviously there is something going on. There's these animals being mutilated and all that stuff. I mean, if this thing is real spooky, I don't know. I mean, are people seeing something they don't recognize? It
It
seems to
seems
be because something's happening. They're seeing
well,
something. We just don't know what it is. And people,
right.
what they are getting so far seems to just be basic, a dog with mange or something that
Well,
they are capturing.
what we do know is there have been several incidents and reported cases of mutilated livestock and domesticated animals being found with these tiny puncture wounds on the neck, chest, or the back area, and completely drained of their blood. Their deaths do not match any known predator.
No, they don't really. I mean, what predator do you know that sucks blood dry? I mean, wild dogs don't. They don't drink blood. I mean, they tear and
No.
rip at the flesh to feed on the meat. I mean, yeah, there's, vampire bats, but that would have to be one frickin' large bat to suck a goat or a frickin' cow completely dry of its blood in such a short period of time. I mean, there's some people who said they just checked on their livestock 10 minutes ago, they come back and the animal's dead, completely drained of
Yeah.
blood with no.
These animals
Yeah,
are
go
being
ahead.
killed quickly and in a neat manner
Yeah.
without alarming other animals or humans nearby. They're leaving no footprints behind or damage to the carcass other than these neat surgical puncture wounds. And if a dog or any known animal predator bites to kill a victim, it first has to exert pressure on both sides of the head or on the neck or on the body. I mean, in these chupacabra reports, there's no trauma, no abrasions, no scratches, no bites,
Mm-mm.
or pressure has been observed on the opposite side of the wound. And as such, it becomes obvious that we are not dealing with an ordinary predator or carnivore species known to science.
No, you're right, because from several of the examinations and the reports that you can get your hands on and that are not the fictitious ones floating around the internet or whatever, because they are out there, you're right. I mean, these things are not um, having the same type of MO that regular predators or dogs do when they bite and stuff. There isn't no huge trauma or any of that type of art, because you would see the other bite marks on the other side of the neck if it was a dog or that type of creature or
Right.
whatever. I mean, according to, I can't think of the name of the site, and I'll just post it later on our YouTube pod description, but there was this one site I was reading, and it was saying the wounds may be similar in appearance to bites inflicted by dogs or monkeys or baboons or whatever, but the wound seems to be, from what they were saying in some other places, that it's 3 to 4 inches long. And kind of like we mentioned before, in few of the cases, the wound was actually cauterized. And there's no known predator on Earth that knows how to do this. I mean, I've said that before. And they even said that some of the bite wounds on the stomach region had actually reached to the liver and was removing sections of that organ, sometimes even leaving strange substances or like a type of material inside the tissue. So this is extremely unnatural. I mean, I even mentioned we were talking about earlier, I think in the first 20 minutes or whatever, or the first hour, I even know what time it is anymore, but but in most cases the victims lacked rigor mortis. Remember I said that, and they stayed flexible for days after the death. I
Right.
mean, that doesn't happen. I mean, incredibly, in some incidences, maybe, but not really, the blood which remained in the body would not clot or coagulate. How do you say that word?
Coagulate.
Thanks. I know the word. My mouth's just not getting stuff out today.
I have that problem too.
But when there was some blood left in this body when they were examining it, it didn't clot or, coagulate for days following the death. So again, that's something very bizarre and unnatural I don't even know. This baffles me. That's my mind's like, this doesn't make sense. It either does A, B, C, and D. It shouldn't be doing these things. So I'm just going to post the link to these sites on the YouTube description so you guys can actually read further into this medical stuff that I was reading, because it's actually really interesting. And they go into great detail. It's not just one of those random sites that you just find and say, oh, Chupacabra did this and he wears pants and he likes drinking moonshine. It's not that typical one, so.
Yeah. Well, something bizarre is definitely occurring in Puerto Rico and other parts of the world.
Right.
With hundreds of similar eyewitness reports and thousands of corpses of animals with deep wounds that cannot be explained,
mm-hmm.
It is difficult to write the whole thing off to a figment of imagination.
Right.
And if the Chupacabra is killing animals, we don't know, but something is. But we're going to leave that up to our listeners to decide and further research for the truth.
Right. I mean, we kind of did as best we could. We went over. We didn't mean to cut into the Jersey Devil time, because usually do 1 hour for one topic, an hour for the next one.
But there was so much on the Chupacabra. There was more on the Chupacabra than there was on the Jersey Devil.
Well, we don't know. I mean, we spent more time on the Chupacabra because that was actually the viewer's main request. So we wanted to try to do the best that we could to kind of give a wider, information out there, throw it out there.
Right.
You guys do what you want with it. You know what I mean? Run with it.
Right.
And if you find something else interesting, we totally say go ahead and message us and email us. But I just thought it was kind of fascinating. I don't know what this thing is. I think that people are seeing a variety of different things. I think people are seeing animals with severe cases of mange, and that seems to be the one thing that they're capturing.
I think that that's part of it, but
I don't think that's the things that actually
I don't
killing.
think it's the whole thing.
No.
I do believe that there has to be something out there doing it.
Right, and then the explanations that the officials are giving is BS, because there's no known animal or human that can do this stuff in such a short period of time. So there is something going on. What it's doing, we don't know. And, what if this thing is physical or spiritual or alien or dimensional being, we don't know. There's, and I'm going to say this before you go into the next show. I've mentioned this a couple times, maybe to you and maybe a couple of other random people I talk to once in a blue moon. But if you actually and this would be one big room, but if you actually could get everybody in the planet into one room and everybody just told things that they've actually experienced, ran into when it comes to the unknown, to the paranormal, or this isn't real, that real, but they actually tell you and share their truths and their stories, I mean, it would alter your reality of what we've been trained or told to believe just because of the environment we grew up in or the propaganda that we've been told or anything else. But if everybody was physically in one space and shared their truths, it would totally alter everybody. And I think would actually open us up to a better understanding of what's actually going on, because there is a lot more going on than a lot of people know, And I don't know if this Chupacabra exists, but something is happening. So we're going to leave it at that, and we totally, say, go out and continue, looking into this manner, just
right.
So.
We're going to go into the Jersey Devil, and we might run over a little bit.
Yeah, we'll do the best we can to kind of zip.
We'll do the best we can to get through this. But for the past 260 years, a supposedly mythical creature known as the Jersey Devil has been haunting the pinelands of New Jersey. Now, during this time, this creature has been seen by over 2,000 witnesses.
Wow.
And supposedly it has terrorized towns. It has caused factories and schools to close down. Now, many people do believe that the Jersey Devil is just a myth that originated from folklore out of the New Jersey Pine Barrens, while others do believe it really exists. But the only so-called evidence of its existence, though, is in the stories told and the eyewitness accounts.
Well, there are many stories of this creature's birth, which you know, and I'm sure everybody else knows, but it's
Right.
folklore and stories passed down the grapevine or whatever. But I mean, one of the more popular legends is that of Mrs. Schroeds of Leeds Point, New Jersey, who made a wish that if she ever had another child, she wants it to be the devil. I don't know who'd
Who
wish.
would make a wish like
I
that
don't.
on their kid?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Her very next child supposedly was born deformed, and she hid it in her home so no one would see it. Well, one stormy night, it started. I'm sorry. I'm going to laugh a little bit on this. I apologize. But one stormy
I know,
night,
I found this
it
funny too.
started to flap its arms, and it then, because its arms was flapping so hot, fast and whatever, it turned into wings and it flew up the chimney to escape and was never seen by the family again. Could you? I'm just picturing a little 5-year-old just going, and I'm like, yeah.
I know, and up the chimney it goes. I know. I found that I found that funny too. But another of the popular legends, and this is the one that I'm familiar with, is a Mrs. Leeds of Estoville, New Jersey. When she found out that she was pregnant with her 13th child, oh my gosh, she shouted, "I hope it's a devil."
I could see why she kind of said that. I mean, by that
I
point,
know,
you're just
13 kids. I
probably
mean,
gone
it's like this
insane.
woman's probably been pregnant most of her adult life.
Yeah.
Well, she got her wish because the child was born with horns, a tail, wings, and a horse-like head. And this creature would visit her every day, but she would stand in the doorway and she would tell it to go away. And it finally got the hint and never returned.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to upset anybody, but some of this is kind of funny, so I apologize. But maybe people are seeing something bizarre, But like I said, many of the things that people are seeing are probably
No
some
one,
known thing. But
right,
there are
but
many legends of the birth, and several towns that claim to be the birthplace. But the one thing that I kind of saw, and I think you did too, is the name Leeds. It's
right.
basically always been consistent. Now, no one really is certain if it's the name of, the town or the name of the mother, or I don't know.
But the name Leeds is consistent in the
Right.
stories.
Well, right. But now, while the origin does kind of provide some validity to the existence of this creature, the sightings are more, substantial pieces of the evidence. I mean, in the early 19th century, very few documented sightings existed, but there were some that survived. I mean, most of the sightings were reported by very prominent people. I'm just thinking maybe drunk people, but, they were prominent people.
Well, okay. While testing cannonballs on the firing range, Commodore Stephen Decatur, he was a naval hero. Now, he saw a strange creature flying across the sky, and being a man, he shot at it and claimed to have hit it, but it kept on flying across the field. And between 1816 and 1839, Joseph Bonaparte, who was the former king of Spain and also the brother to Napoleon, he claimed that he saw the creature near Bordentown, New Jersey, while on a hunting trip. Who would come to the United States to hunt when they're king of Spain?
Because they have different species and blah, 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 blah thing. I don't know, okay? Maybe he was hunting for a new woman, okay? I don't know.
Who knows?
It doesn't matter. For whatever reason, this guy wanted to travel. And you know what? A lot of us like to travel. I'm not traveling
That's right.
hunting, but some people do. That's their life. But in 1840-ish, 41 or whatever, supposedly, sheeps and chickens were killed by a creature that had a piercing scream, and it left bizarre tracks, and while visiting the Pine Barrens, W.F. Mayer of New York noticed that the locals would not leave their homes after dark, which I'm just writing this, but I think saying this, but I kind of think it's funny because most people in the 1800s didn't really go out after the dark because it's not the same of how it is now.
I know. They didn't
Because
have like
you had-
street lights or anything. It was dark.
Well, not that, but there was more wildlife near the towns that you're living at back then.
Right.
And we're in more metropolis cities, so you don't have to worry too much about wildlife. But those of you who do live in country and stuff, you know it's not always safe to go out after dark unless you're carrying a gun, because you are not the top of the food chain. You're going to be stalked and possibly killed. Okay, so people who know that when they're out in I just lost my thought. The people who are not in the big cities, they're out in the country. That's what I wanted to say, country. Sorry, but in I guess early January 16th of 1909, this guy named Thackett of Woodbury, New Jersey, he saw a creature with glowing red eyes flying down the street. And in Bristol, PA, John McCowan saw the creature on the banks of the canal. And some other dude named James Sackville, I think his name, Sackville.
Yeah.
He fired, again, somebody else is shooting at the creature, fired at the creature as it flew away, screaming. Can see why it's screaming. It just got shot with buckshot. And the postmaster of Bristol, E.W. Minister, also saw a bird-like creature with a piercing scream and a horse-like head. And when daylight came, the residents found hoof prints in the snow. And I guess 2 local trappers said that they had never seen tracks like that before. But I'm just thinking they might have been drunk or something. And it's snow. Snow melts and footprints get deformed,
That's true. But the next day, the Loudons of Burlington, New Jersey, found hoof prints in their yard and around their slop barrels, which was what was in them.
Yeah.
In the barrels was half eaten. I'll get this out here in a minute. But almost every yard in Burlington had these hoof prints in them, and the prints went up trees, went from roof to roof, and they disappeared in the middle of the road. And they found prints in fields that just stopped in the middle of the fields.
Well, because it flew away.
Yeah.
Probably.
But
how does I'm sorry, but I'm imagining, how like cartoons they have all of a sudden these little, because somebody ran through red paint and all of a sudden you see all these little footprints going to places where the footprint shouldn't be logically running. That's what I was picturing when you were saying it was going up this tree and that thing and everything else. It's like a cartoonish type of thing.
They organized this hunt to follow the tracks, but the dogs refused to follow the trail.
Because even they were like, you guys are smoking. I mean, I'm just going to go do something else. But maybe it was a bizarre creature. I don't know. The things that I'm reading, it just seems so
I know what I read
folklorish,
about this thing was it seems to me it was mostly folklore, and to put it out there, I really don't believe that the Jersey Devil exists.
There may be some bizarre creature running around that area that somebody may be seeing, but I don't think it's this weird looking thing. I think it's probably like a crane or something. But at 2:30 a.m. on the 19th, Mr. and Mrs. Nelson of Gloucester, how do you say that? I don't want to get
Gloucester.
Yeah, I don't want to get people in Jersey mad at me, and I apologize for butchering that one. But they were awakened by strange noises, and from their window they watched the Jersey Devil for like a full 10 minutes. I guess he had a Rolex on him or something, and one of the longest eyewitness sightings. Now, Mr. Nelson described this creature to be like 3.5 feet tall, had like a collie, so it's kind of like a dog now, not a horse, a collie-shaped head with a face of a horse. That's one weird-looking head. Bats-like wings that were like 2 feet long. It had like a long neck, and the back legs were those of like a crane, and it had a horse-like hoofs. And I guess it walked on its back legs and held up its short front legs, but it didn't use them at all. That is such a bizarre description.
I know.
He must have been really sleepy, or
he's probably was a farmer, and that was the best that he could describe it, with the
plus it was kind of dark. It's kind of dark. It's the 19th century. They don't have street lights, yada yada yada. Yeah, I see what you're saying. So yeah, it's kind of the best that he could probably describe it, and that makes sense. Now, the afternoon, there's 2 professional hunters that tracked down the devil for like 20 miles around that town that you were saying, the Gloucester. Thank you. And this creature, I guess, supposedly was jumping 5-foot fences. It went under, 8 inches of space. And most of the prints were found in South New Jersey. Now, a group in Camden, New Jersey, they also saw it, and they reported that it barked at them and then flew away. So instead of screeching at this high, crazy banshee type of scream, this thing actually just barked at him like a dog while it was going by or something, like, back off, dude.
Well, Camden police officer Lewis Sturr saw the devil drinking from a horse trough. And the school at Mount Ephron closed because none of the students came in, and the mills and the factories closed in Gloucester because none of the employees came to work.
Hmm.
So, and even then, many New Jersey residents would not leave their home even in the daylight. But since 1909, the numbers of sightings have dwindled.
Mm-hmm.
And some speculate, though, it is probably because of the fact that people do not want to be branded as crazy.
But people talk about a lot of things. I mean, people are seeing way more things
I
in
do believe that they may have
paranormal and
seen. I do believe they may have seen something,
yeah, me too. But I don't
but
know if it's the
I just
description of
don't
what
believe
they're
in this
saying.
Jersey Devil thing.
Well, as far as the description, it's such, or the picture that we're looking at, because the way they're describing it, that's how someone's sketching it up. But maybe these people back then would have sketched it differently, you know?
Possibly.
And this is just somebody sketching it up from what they're reading that's been passed down the grapevine for so long. And when you get storytellers love to elaborate and bring
And
more
embellish.
and bring more excitement and emotions to these stories. And that's what, that's what's great thing about folklore and stories. I mean, that's what really keeps people on their edge of their seat. That's why people tune in to listen to things. That's why people go see movies and what have you. But so maybe the form of this thing may not exactly look like that, but kind of changed over time to what these storytellers made it to be. But in 1927, a cab driver on his way to Salem had a flat tire, and I guess he stopped to change the tire, obviously. And this creature stood upright and covered. It was kind of covered in hair, and he said that this thing flew and landed on the roof of the cab, and it shook the car violently. So I don't know why, but maybe he was angry that he was in his territory. You know how sometimes squirrels throw at things at you if you're too close to their stuff. And
Right.
you would
Yeah, they
know.
do.
Yeah. But he fled the scene, leaving behind the tire and the jack. And, later on he returned with his friend to retrieve it. And I guess in 1953, some guy named Philip Smith, who was known to be sober, I don't know why they stated this, and honest,
I don't either.
saw the devil walking down the street, this creature walking down the street as well. So,
Well, okay, in 1961, two couples were parked in the Pine Barrens.
mhm.
Can only imagine what they were doing.
They were reading the paper. Okay, come on now.
Okay, that was it. Good. They heard a screeching, and the roof of the car suddenly was smashed in, so they fled. Well, they returned later. That is so stupid. They returned later, and again, they heard this loud screech, so they looked up and they saw a creature flying among the trees. Why would you return to a place when the roof of your car was smushed in?
Oh, by some crazy creature that's screeching like a banshee. But
I know.
it's kind of like those people who, you touch something and you burn your hand and then you do it again.
And then you got to touch it again.
Yeah.
I know. Well, in 19...
the person who licks the frozen pole every year. Your tongue's going to get stuck, but you keep doing it.
But
you don't know
do
why.
it anyway.
Yeah,
You can always find a kid you can trick into doing that.
Or some drunk, but yeah.
But in 1966, a farm was raided, and there were 31 ducks, 3 geese, 4 cats, and 2 dogs that were killed.
Psst.
And one of the dogs was a large, aggressive German Shepherd, and it had its throat ripped open.
But they don't know what killed it. Somebody just reported that all these things happened, but they're not saying what.
There was nothing in the report about that they saw, what had happened. That it was mostly like they just walked out, out the door, and they found all of this.
That's interesting. This is the first case I've heard of something being killed thus far, I think.
Right.
Well, in 1981, the young couple spotted the devil at the Atson Lake in Atlantic County, and in 87, I don't know what they spotted at a lake, but in 87 in Vinland, an aggressive... Why are these German Shepherds always aggressive?
I don't know.
Not all German Shepherds are aggressive.
No, they're not.
They're
Some
very
of them are really
amazing
big teddy bears.
Pets to have. Now, the German Shepherd was found torn apart and its body was gnawed on. The body was found 25 feet from the chain, and it had been hooked to around the body were strange tracks, and no one could identify.
Well, the most substantial evidence that exists is the sightings and the prints. And many of the theories about the Jersey Devil are based upon that evidence. Now, some of those theories can be proven to be false, but some of the theories seem to support the existence of the Jersey Devil. And one theory is that the Jersey Devil is a bird, and some people believe that the Jersey Devil is a sandhill crane, which used to live in South Jersey until it was driven out by man.
Right. Well, because a lot of species have either almost gone non-existent or have had to migrate because of us taking over most of the planet, really. But I mean,
Mhm.
like we had mentioned, the sandhill crane. I mean, I really think a lot of people may have been seeing the sandhill crane because have you heard a sandhill crane?
Yes, I have. I've seen them. There's a place in Nebraska when I lived out
You,
near there
what you
that
had to
they
drive all
would.
the way to Nebraska just to see a crane?
Well, I was just across the river,
Okay.
but there was a place in Nebraska
Hmm.
that is a sandy area,
Right.
and the sandhill cranes migrate there every year.
Right. Well, sandhill cranes, I mean, they weigh, up to 12 pounds or a little bit more. Obviously, they're tall. They're like, I think some of them is stated about 4 feet high, maybe a little bit higher. They have a huge wingspan, I think about 80, 70, 80 inches. I mean, they have this huge screaming, whooping voice because we have them up north and there's two that moved in because we have a lake that's near our land. It's private land. It's not a lake for people to go to and do whatever. It's just in
Yeah.
nature, whatever. So these animals and everything, just this is their stuff. And these cranes are, I got them actually in video. They're insanely huge. Because when I first saw that, I was like, what the blank is that? Because I've never seen them
Right.
there. Because we're in the woods in the middle of nowhere. And there wasn't a lake for a little ways, where a person could access. And it kind of freaked me out. But then I realized as I came closer what the heck it was. And they came buzzing past me and, they're huge, dude. And their winged, can't say the word, wingspan is ginormous. And they just swooped over me and were screeching. So, I mean, I got
Yeah.
that on video. So I can see how that could freak somebody out. And maybe in the dark, people are seeing this, and because it's dark and fear and panic and adrenaline's running through you, they created it into this bizarre creature. Now, it, for the most part, this sandhill crane, I mean, it avoids human. They don't like to be confronted, and if they are, they'll fight like anything will to protect itself, to flee.
Right.
Now, I know this thing eats potatoes and corn, so this could be the account for why it raids on crops, but it doesn't explain that weird killing that you were talking about with the livestock or the other animals. I mean, it doesn't really explain why people are describing this devil as having a horse head, bat wings, a tail, which cranes don't have.
Right.
It just it doesn't really kind of connect with that part, but maybe it's because of the time of day that they're seeing it. But there's this professor, what was his name? That Braulhoff, I think his name was.
Yes.
He said that the tracks were made by a prehistoric creature from Jurassic period that lived underground in a cave. I don't know how this guy
We're
comes up
back
with.
to the caves again.
Yes, there we are again. Anyway, and this expert from the Smithsonian Institute, he has this theory about it being ancient creatures surviving underground, and that the Jersey Devil was a pterodactyl. And the problem with this theory is the fact that the Academy of Natural Sciences can't find no record, okay, of any living or extinct creature that resembles the Jersey Devil. There's no bones, there's no nothing. So maybe this devil too is like the Chupacabra and Bigfoot and everybody else. They're either aliens or they're multi-dimensional beings or, what have you. I don't know.
Well, I don't know either. Only a small amount of the sightings and footprints, though, could be hoaxes.
Yes.
But this creature has been seen by numerous reliable people whose integrity is beyond question. And even if some are hoaxes, it doesn't explain the hoof tracks on rooftops and those
Yeah.
that
Sorry. That's what it
And
sounded like
those
you were
that
saying.
hoot, whatever.
Who let the hoof out? Sorry, I gotta mess with you. It's been a long time. I apologize, people.
Uh, oh, that's quite all right.
They can yell at
And
me.
those that end abruptly as if the creature took flight.
Hmm.
Now, this last theory is the most controversial,
Yeah.
but it still deserves serious consideration. And many people believe that the Jersey Devil is the very essence of evil.
Right.
And it's also said that the devil is the harbinger of war, and it appears before any great conflict.
See, okay, that's
It
interesting. That's it's kind of like a spiritual being warning.
Right. Now we're getting into kind of like the spiritual realm. You're
Right.
you're you're exactly right.
Right.
Because it was cited just before the start of the Civil War,
Hmm.
before the just before the Spanish American War and World War I and World War II. As a matter of fact, it was seen on December 7th, 1941, right before the bombing of Pearl Harbor.
Wow.
And it was also seen right before the Vietnam War.
See, that's actually an interesting thing. The fact that people are seeing this bizarre being, and maybe it is, like you're saying, a messenger of doom or warning, and the fact that they've all kind of seen it right or prior to, or right when it was starting to, when these all wars were occurring, that's very interesting. And that takes somebody must have been really researching and keeping records, and then noticed this
That's what I was
pattern.
thinking
That's
when I
very
was reading
interesting.
that.
That's actually an interesting thing too. I mean, I don't know. That's kind of an interesting thing that went with this. But being called the forerunner to wars, I mean, it could have come from its possible demonic origin, like we were just saying.
Right.
But when I was kind of reading in what you were saying, because I kind of saw in 1730 that Ben Franklin report, supposedly, okay, we don't know,
Yeah.
it's just what we're reading, so don't get mad at us. But in 1730, Ben Franklin reported on a witch trial near Mount Holly, New Jersey, and one of the original legends is that Mother Leeds was a witch, and
Right.
another is that the birth resulted from a witch's curse,
Right. I read those too.
Yes.
But whether or not you believe in the Jersey Devil or whatever this creature is, it has been seen by over 2,000 people. And these sightings have gone on for over 260 years.
Wow.
There has to be something to it. Maybe it really exists, or maybe it's the longest running hoax in history.
I don't think it just stays in New Jersey, Val. I think that they had mentioned that they were seeing this devil-like creature around Jersey
I
as
have no
well.
doubts that they were seeing something. I
Yeah, for
just don't
sure.
believe in this Jersey Devil deal.
Some of the
You know,
ones I'm thinking it was possibly the cranes. There's so many different cranes in and around there and here in
yeah,
some
but
of
they're
your areas.
vegetarians mostly. I
Well,
mean,
I'm
I've
not
never
saying
heard
the
of a crane
cranes.
eating meat.
Well, maybe this crane's been manipulated by the military as well to become a super beast. Okay,
There you go.
that's
Now they got
that's our conspiracy theory
now
out
they
there.
got
Now somebody can go type that up on Wikipedia and we can run with something and make it into something awesome. And in 260 years from now, somebody like us will be doing a show and telling their other people, and you heard it first here. So,
yeah, you did.
but the thing is
And somebody asked, does it just stay in
the,
New Jersey?
Val
Well,
did,
it's
yeah.
been the Pine Barrens. It's there on the Pennsylvania state line. It has been seen in Pennsylvania too, but like it's just been mainly like maybe just across the state line in other small towns.
But you know what? I mean, Val was mentioning like something in North Dakota. But you know what? North Dakota and South Dakota and a lot of the native, my brain's turning off, reservations and stuff, they actually have a lot of stories, folklores, and possibly true.
Right.
These spiritual beings and different creatures and stuff. And they actually, and this is not our stuff, but this is stuff that's out there. They're saying that a lot of the native land is actually on the reservations, and some of the national parks and stuff are actually bases and portals and stuff for dimensional beings, dimensional beings, extraterrestrials, and all this stuff. There's so many things out there. Like I said, if we got everybody in one room and they told of what they've experienced, we know friends online that have, you've seen something, I've seen something
Right.
weird. Crazy Moose has a book out there, and she tells about her experiences when she was in, I forgot, was it California or Colorado, somewhere, of a multi-dimensional type of spirit or being and running into. One time I would like to have her come on our show, but when we get a little further and go into YouTube and pod from there and stuff. But I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank everybody who's ever sent us messages or, you know, yelled at us or gave us positive information, whatever. You know, we just enjoy bantering and looking into new things and what have you. So thank you to the viewer who sent in about the Chupacabra. I actually thought it was kind of interesting, all the different things that are being talked about
Really.
it.
And we do, like I said before, we do read our messages. And I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. I want to thank our mods for doing a good job. Our
Yeah.
mod, I see in there. And to Raven for a good show. Join us next week, April 14th, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, when our topic will be the strange, unsolved disappearance of Michael Rockefeller.
Right. That was
This
a
is
viewer request.
also a listener request.
Right. And
And be sure to share us on Facebook or any other social media you happen to be a member of.
yeah, subscribe to our YouTube page and Facebook page, and, you know, share us with friends. And we'll see you guys next week. And thank you for sticking with us. Sorry, we went over a little bit, and I hope everybody has a great week. What's left
Good
of it.
night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.